Paragon 7 Studios.
You're listening to another episode of A Lady and Some Dudes podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of A Lady and Some Dudes podcast. Let's jump right into our NBA show and let us talk about the best player in the NBA, my main man, Kevin Durant. Now, you guys follow this show, you know I always have something to say about KD. What I've been noticing in the last few months watching the NBA is it seems like I can't watch 2 games in a row without commentators comparing players to Kevin Durant. Like, it don't matter what the team is, they're going to find somebody to make a comparison. So in this segment, which is our cap or no cap segment, we're going to talk about the latest person on the block, Michael Porter Jr. Commentators, Denver played the Clippers last night. And one of the things I kept hearing reoccurring during the game is Michael Porter is like KD. He's like another KD and Michael Porter Jr. So I want the guys to discuss, is this a true statement? Are we looking at the next Kevin Durant and Michael Porter Jr.? Or is it all cap?
To me, it's wishful thinking, cap. You are nowhere near the 7-foot graceful shooter. Every time KD plays, even on one leg, when he played in the finals, one leg, the game is so easy for him. Why y'all trying to get rid of KD? Let KD live. KD his flowers. Appreciate him. Once he's gone, then we could look for the next ambassador. But right now, he is who he is, which is one of the greatest players to ever play this game. Enjoy it. So stop the nonsense. Stop trying to replace him. Let him be. Let him be. Say it. Let him be. There will be no one like him. KD.
You know, is it cap or no cap? You know, I'll say it's cap, but I look at it a little bit differently. Now, if you're Michael Porter, I mean, of course, it sounds good to say, like, yeah, my game might resemble, although I don't think that's like 100% true. But when they compare the two, is a tall like stretch man who can shoot the rock. And ever since high school, that's what we've known Michael Porter Jr. to be. A guy, I mean, he can't score at the same efficiency as KD, but he can shoot the rock. Like, he can get to the cup. But I feel like it's not fair, not to just KD, but also to Michael Porter Jr. because of the situation he came into the league with. He came into the league having an injury. So, like Phil said, it's wishful thinking. And I think the fact that he had to sit out that 1 year and then he had to slowly work his way back from injury to get to where he is now, I don't think it's fair to Michael Porter Jr. at all, as well as KD, to compare the two, because of course they both got length, they both can shoot, but there's things that KD can do that Michael Porter is still like working on his game, although KD works on his game daily, because what did he say? I want to play the game to get better, to increase my development to where I'm basically unguardable, which he kind of sort of almost technically is, but he's just trying to do it his way. But I think it's cap, because I mean, you can't really compare the two, because you got to think about this. He's only in his 3rd year in the league. He's only in his 3rd year, and then he's in a situation to where he's not the lead guy. We have to put him in a situation to where he's the lead guy to see if, oh, okay, all we see is glimpses. But nah, we need to see Michael Porter Jr. as the main guy to really make that assessment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And man, leave Kevin Durant alone. Leave him alone. Like, why can't I watch other people's games that's not the Brooklyn Nets And all they want to do is talk about who's just like KD, who's like KD. Phil, I agree with you. KD is here, right? We get to see him play. And we can appreciate KD's game because he's actively playing. So why are we trying to just insert NBA player to kind of elevate to KD status? This is all cap. Michael Porter Jr. is a shooter. He can score. No one that watches the NBA is going to debate that. He is not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, I mean, can we talk about Kevin Durant's last game? Because my dude came off the bench. He did not start. He came off the bench, dropped 42 points on 67% shooting, right? When KD...
How many percent?
67% shooting. When KD shoots below 50%, and that's rare, that does not happen often, people are concerned. Commentators are concerned. They're like, oh my gosh, he's shooting 49%. Is he injured? Right? Because there's a level that KD is on that other people just aren't on. KD can do what he wants at will. When you start comparing a player, I feel like you got to compare them holistically. KD is a good ball handler. He creates plays. He has, especially in that last game, he had 10 assists. But if you watch him, he can facilitate. Michael Porter Jr. can't even hold a dribble for 2 possessions in a row. Like, my thing is, like, if you're going to compare, let's compare everything. So, man, leave Kevin Durant alone. Kevin Durant is the best player on this planet. He is the best player in the NBA. It's not even close. Okay, look, I know I'm going off on a rant, but KD took like multiple breaks in the season, right? Because of injuries, so they say, whatever. When KD comes back from these breaks of injury, my dude comes in and shoots 100% from the field. He comes in and drops 35 points a game. He comes in, he'll come off the bench and drop 33, then go ahead and drop 42 in the next game. I'm like, there's no one like that. LeBron came back this week, right? And I don't know what LeBron was doing. I don't know where he was shooting them balls to. So come on, man. Stop comparing KD. He's the best. There's no one in his league. Outside of LeBron. LeBron is like second.
You left something out.
What?
You forgot that KD will troll you and then come out and drop 40. You missed that part.
Exactly. Right. And who is the savior of Twitter? Thank you, Alan. KD is the savior of Twitter, because not only is he going to roast you on the court and you can't do anything about it, he's going to fact check you. He's going to tell you off. He's going to tell you the truth about yourself. And he's the only player that does that. My boy LeBron, like, I really was down with his tweet, where he was like, you're next, but he deleted it. You know what I'm saying? And I hated that he did that, because KD would have stood firm in it. KD's on another level, even on social media. So let's put this to bed. Cap for everyone you're comparing to KD. I don't care who it is. And that's just the end of that. Now, if in 5 or 10 years, Michael Porter, I don't know, it might be a conversation that we'll have, right? Maybe LaMelo Ball might be in the conversation for the next KD. But as of today, as of May 2nd, 2021, he cannot be compared.
Look, as a fan, I'm not reaching that far with LaMelo. I'm respectful.
You put some respect on that name. I believe he is the greatest shooter of all time. I think he's a better shooter than Steph. I know y'all gonna say crazy.
No, you're crazy. No,
Yeah,
Phil, stop. Phil, stop. Stop.
I would say.
Listen,
stop.
Steph does is shoot further.
Go to the next topic. Go to the next topic.
Wait. Let me just say this. Steph is a better shooter. KD is the best scorer I have seen in my life. Period.
KD is the most efficient scorer, but Steph is the greatest shooter. The greatest shooter.
Yeah.
Come on, Phil. Stop it.
So okay, let me just throw this out there and we will transition. Game on the line. You coming down the floor. You
Katie.
You need a
Katie.
Okay.
Katie.
Katie.
Okay. All right, cool.
You're listening to the Lance J Radio Network. Rampage, the first lieutenant of the Universal Flipmo Squad.
We cannot teach grown people new tricks.
Nah, you gotta get to the youngins.
We have to change the culture, and the reason why we have to change the culture because it needs to change. So I'm in the school for 2 weeks. I had my first test. They get graded tomorrow. I'm teaching them the culture about putting playlists together like a mixtape, make their own mixtape. The best mixtape gets a platinum record or some headphones.
That's dope.
James Lewis.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You get them cranks?
Yeah. So
plug for cranks
or video game because they got some gamers.
All right.
You know, I got some students and I got 20 students. Boom. I get a call from School of Hip Hop. Again, they want you to go to ASU and teach a curriculum class.
You're listening to the Lance J Radio Network.
I see you favor a 45.
Tonight I do. And I keeps one in the chamber in case you ponder it. Nice showpiece you got there.
Walther, PPK, 380, double action.
Hey, them Walters like to jump some.
As will you, with one in your elbow.
That gun ain't got enough firepower to make my joint useless. It definitely won't stop me from emptying out half my mag.
You might not hit me.
This range? And this caliber? Even if I miss, I can't miss.
I admire a man with confidence.
You're listening to the Lance J Radio Network.
FreeAgentRadio.com. Free to play what we want, free to say what we want. FreeAgentRadio.com.
Beat rocked and dropped the beat.
You're listening to the Lance J Radio Network.
Okay, let's begin. Here it is.
Here it is. If I had to go to a deserted island, and I could take one album with me to listen to the rest of my life, it would be Mecca and the Soul Brother. I love you to death, cousin!
What's going on with you, bro?
It's that return to that 12, buddy!
You know, it all started from Heavy D. He started, everything. And I was basically under him. And, he believed in what I was doing and stuff. And we worked together and experimented and, decided to, do music together.
Let us transition, since we're talking about guards. Let's talk about Chris Paul. As you know, Chris Paul is on the Suns, have been all season, has had a huge impact. Now the Suns are diving feet first. If I'm not mistaken, the Suns may have the best record in the NBA. They have the second best record in the NBA. They are a guaranteed in the playoffs, right? They have secured their spot. And so my question to the guys is, obviously there's one common denominator, right? Last year, they made the playoff bubble, but we don't count the Mickey Mouse tournament, right? But the Suns have not been able to make it to the playoffs. And this year, not only are they making it to the playoffs, they made it with authority, right? About to end second or even first in the West. Should this now put Chris Paul on the radar to be high up in the MVP conversation? I believe he is on the MVP list currently, maybe at number 4. But should this elevate him and let him be a real contender to win MVP this season?
He deserves to be in the conversation. Now, winning it, that's going to be hard. Like, when we think about the Steve Nash comparison, this is probably what it's going to come down to, something similar as that. Because it's not that Chris Paul is putting up numbers that are wowing you like an Embiid or a Jokic or anything. It's just, there are just certain players who just have a natural impact on the game, and they don't necessarily have to score the ball to show that impact. And that's what Chris Paul has, because I feel like there's only a few players like that. I would say him, Rondo. You can probably even throw like Jason Kidd. Like, there's only certain type of players who just have impacts on games, and they don't have to wow you with the stats. Now, for him to win, like, I don't really know, like, what else is it going to take? Because, like, from just what I glanced over, he's averaging 16 and I can't remember how many assists, 16 and 8. They sound good. Those are that's almost a double-double, almost Steve Nash type numbers, but it's not the 7 seconds or less run and gun. We're about to go ahead and throw lobs up to Sean Marion or Amari Stoudemire, or you got Quentin Richardson in the corner. It's like he's just able to lead a bunch of young guys with Devin Booker, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton. He's showing them how to win in the league. And he's just that one leader that they needed to just be able to get over this playoff drought, because it's their first playoffs in almost 11 years. So will he win it? It's going to be hard, but I definitely believe that he just deserves to be able to get some votes for the most valuable player this year.
Chris Paul, out of his 15 years, missed the playoff 3 times. 3 times. 4 times. 11 years. Every team he's been on becomes a successful team. From when the Pelicans used to be the Hornets, he took them to the playoff, and they haven't been same since. When they were originally here in Charlotte, he did his job. And when he was at the Clippers, he literally brought them almost to they were a title contending team. If he didn't get hurt in Houston, they would have beat the Golden State Warriors and went to the finals and I believe win the championship. Chris Paul is a quintessential point guard. He does everything you need to do to win. After what he did to the Knicks, and he said, I'm coming to the Mecca and I'm taking over this game. If Chris Paul wanted to, he could score at will. He has the move. I've seen what he done to he could do, but his primary job is to get everyone fed. If they lack, he comes in. He has taken the bubble team, which I rave, the best team in the bubble was the Phoenix Suns. We had the best coach in the bubble, right? Because they went undefeated, but didn't qualify because of their regular record. I believe he had brought them to the second best team in the league. Could you imagine? The second best team in the league. And what we thought was what team was going to be leading. We thought the Lakers, the Clippers, Denver. He jumped all of them. And he beat Utah. He beat Utah on Friday night, just passed. And they destroyed him. He deserved to be consideration for MVP, and he will get my vote as MVP. Is he going to win? No. Why? Because the voters are in love with Jokic. All you hear is Jokic, Joker. Right?
Phil, you got to vote?
If I had a vote. If I had a vote.
I was about to say, like, who can I call so I can...
Don't worry. In the future, I may get this vote. If I had a vote, he would get my vote. Him, he will get my first or second place vote, first place vote, then Julius. Not to be biased. But is he going to win? No, because the media has fallen in love with Jokic and Embiid. They have fallen in love with those 2 guys. I think number 1 is Jokic. Number 2, I don't know who's number 2 right now. Drop. So Jokic, I think it's Embiid, and then it's probably be LeBron. So, but I also will put up in there Julius Randle. He deserves consideration, not to win, but top 5 vote. So that's what I believe.
So I always kind of veer off the path when we talk about MVP because I know the general fan is going to look at numbers. How many points does he have? How many assists does he have? You know, just depending on the position of, you know, the athlete is playing in. And when I think about MVP, I truly, truly, truly objectively just look at the most impactful. If you took this player off of a team, what would the team do? Would the team be in this position? Or would they not even come close to achieving this? So with that as my marker and knowing where the Suns have been the last few seasons, like Phil mentioned, for them to be now, they are holding the second best record. They can end the season in the next 9 or 10 games being the best team in the NBA. We just don't know yet. I feel like that impact is not only great, like impact is pretty astronomical. Because when you look at some of the other contenders, like LeBron, for instance, like he's way down on the list now. It's like if LeBron wasn't on the team and they had like AD on the team, would the Lakers potentially make the playoffs? Some people would say no, but maybe. I mean, AD is kind of soft and he just got dunked on the other day. So his ego is hurt. But
I'll defend him. That was an offensive foul, yo. I'll defend him.
I mean, I don't know. I watched the tape, but you know, when I look at Chris Paul, what he's doing for these Suns, like they have, in my opinion, they have like a legitimate unit. Like they can surprise everyone and come out of the West. You know what I'm saying? And so when you talk about impact, when you talk about adding a piece that just changes the whole dynamic of a team, this is like the quintessential example for me. And I feel like Chris Paul has done it. He is the most valuable player to his team compared to the other contenders on other teams. That's my opinion. I feel not only should he get the votes, he should win. The reality is he's not going to win because all these NBA fans love to see a white man elevated, right? And so we know Joker is going to get that. We know it.
But if he's taken off that team, how well do you think the Nuggets would be?
They'll be fine because they have
fine.
They have the newborn KD. They have weapons. They have weapons.
Here's the thing. So I'm not going to be super unrealistic. I feel like the Nuggets will still win games. They definitely won't be what they are because Joker as a center, not only does he score, he facilitates, like he kind of does everything. Like he's kind of like the heartbeat of that team. Take him off, I still see them winning games, not as much, but I feel like they'll be semi okay. I feel like
7 seed.
You take Chris Paul off. I'm sorry, like the Suns are not making the playoffs this year.
I think they would be back in the playing game or like in position for a playing game if they didn't have Chris Paul.
I think the Nuggets will be I think the Nuggets will be a 7 or 8 seed at worst.
Where are the Nuggets right now?
4.
They're the 4th seed.
4th seed. And see, that's what bothers me. You can't be MVP and you're not winning and you're not the top of the seed. You're not top. You know, you gotta be top 3 at least.
But here's the thing though, like you gotta think about here's the thing, like when you look at the actual standings, especially like when it comes to the West, you could say top 4, but guess what? You're only like 3 or 4 games out from first place. It's not like, oh, you're in like once, honestly, we see this every year. When it comes to the first through 5 in the West, they're all like right there, right? They're above. And then once you get to 6 and below, it's like, yo, they're all like a half a game away from each other. And I believe, like, if you honestly took Jokic off of the Nuggets as they're currently constructed with Murray out, I feel like they would drop more. Like, I feel like they would pretty much be in the same position. I won't say as the Suns, but maybe just like you said, Phil, maybe like 7th or 8th, they would still be in that play-in tournament.
Well, here's the thing, and you mentioned a very important point that we can't gloss over with Murray out. Now, all things even and considered, if we had a healthy Jamal Murray, I still think they make the playoffs. Like maybe at the tail end, at the tail end of the playoffs, but they still make the playoffs. So I think Murray being out is just a factor that is kind of an extraordinary circumstance. But if we're being neutral and all things even, take Joker out, take Chris Paul out, Denver still makes the playoffs. The Suns don't.
And because we've seen this over and over again, the Suns will start hot during the regular season and they'll tail off.
Always.
They've been doing that for the past 10, 15 years.
Always.
So that's what they've been doing.
Yeah. So, just to kind of wrap up this segment, I feel like we as a fan base, when we start thinking about MVP, I think we got to take it just a little deeper. Forget the numbers. Chris Paul is not going to have numbers that's going to make you run and jump, right? But when you start talking about impact, that is who deserves the MVP. And this season is Chris Paul for me. Hey, you can listen to the remainder of this episode of A Lady and Some Dudes on SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts.